Okay, Birkot HaShachar. We're going to continue, but before we continue, we can do a little summary of where we at. This is like the 10th class or 9th class. So we can see where we are. Birkot HaShachar, it's 18 brachot. It really then became 19. Where we thank Hashem for natural things that happen on a daily basis, usually at the beginning of the day. We talked about how 18 times 4 is 72 because of the name, Hashem's name is there 18 times. And that's a great name of Hashem that it's also hinted at in the Amidah. We talked about the fact that davening is not counted as one of the 248 mitzvahs according to some people, according to some rabbis, because it's not one of the 248 members of the body, because it's too important to be counted with the rest of the members, right? We talked about 19 and how 19, because 18 became 19, and 19 is the milui, is the filler letters for Hashem's name, which represents something that is typically hidden because it's so high, it's typically hidden. So that is also involved not only in the Amidah but also here. And then we have learned a few brachas, but let's introduce from the first bracha Birkot HaShachar that we didn't analyze, which is Hamapil, which we do at night, where we give our soul to Hashem before going to sleep. And after doing a good accounting of what we did in the day, we give our soul back to Hashem and tell Him, take care of it. Mode'ani, in the morning we wake up and we thank Hashem for giving it back refreshed. Of course, we have to do our part and go to sleep at a normal time to have it refreshed enough. But Hashem gives us back our neshama and tells us, you have a purpose today, I need you today, there's something you need to do today. We do Natilas Yadayim, and with that we do the bracha of Natilat Yadayim, good morning, where we take away the impurity of 1/60th of death, which is related to sleep. We say Elokai Neshama, we say Asher Yatzar, where we thank Hashem for keeping our body healthy, and that every hole in the body is functioning in its proper way, whether as an input or output or both. We say Elokai Neshama, which is the bracha version of Mode'ani, where we thank Hashem for the neshama He gave us. And then the next three brachas we already analyzed. We have an antenna talking about the rooster that differentiates between day and night. And we're thanking Hashem, or trying to connect to a flow of intelligence so that we can differentiate between good and bad, between good and evil. Because from the first moment during the day, we want to be conscious that we're going to have some decisions that are not obvious during the day, and it's not going to be clear which one is the right one, but we want to have the clarity, the binah, the understanding to make the right choice. And especially when you're not shooting from the hip, but you're ready for something's coming, it's easier to react properly. And that's what we do in this bracha. Pokeach Ivrim, open my eyes. First of all, we're thankful that our eyes are working again, that we can see, which we couldn't do during the night. And we thank Hashem, ask for a flow to be able to see the Hashgacha Pratit, the divine providence in everything that we do, and to be able to see intellectually, not only understand, but to see the difference between good and evil. And finally, yesterday we did Matir Asurim, who releases the bound. Number one, we're thinking the fact that we can move again, that we couldn't move while we slept, or we couldn't control our movements. And now we're thanking Hashem and asking for a flow to be able to liberate ourselves from our limitations, our physical, emotional, financial limitations, our fears, our addictions, and also, and very importantly, a flow that allows us to direct our emotions, our love and our fear, our attraction and our repulsion towards the correct things. Okay, that's a 5-minute summary of the last 8-9 classes. And now today we move on to the 7th bracha of Birkot HaShachar, which is Zoikef Kefufim. And we're going to see there's, at least in how we're going to be explaining it, there's a lot of overlap between, and I did not prepare this, between 6 and 7. 6 and 7 have a lot of overlap, as we'll see, which makes sense. That is, we also saw a lot of overlap between 4 and 5, between having the intelligence to differentiate between good and evil or be able to see it. It's like a progression. So here we'll also have a progression. So some of the stuff we said yesterday and the stories we said yesterday are relevant to today's bracha. So let's see. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam zoikef kefufim, who strengthens those who are stooped. Or, so you can walk erguido, ¿cómo se dice? Not stooped.
It's, well, it says...
How does it say there?
Straight.
Straighten the bower.
No, bow.
Bowed. Okay. So, this bracha, most simple sense.
Kafuf, you're like this. Kafufim.
Yeah, kafuf, you're like, because you're in bed. You're in bed. So here we're thanking Hashem for the fact that we stood up. We stood up from bed. So again, in the times of the Beit HaMikdash or closer to there, you would say this bracha when you would stand. And then you would say, oh, sokef kefufim. I can stand. That's the most simple sense. The source of this phrase is in Tehillim. We say it every day. Tehillim 145, Asher Shobetecha, we say, Soymech Hashem lechol hanoiflim, vezoikef lechol hakefufim. Hashem supports all those who fall and straightens all those who are bent down. Bent down is nicer than stooped. Because stooped sounds like you're insulting people.
Yeah.
No. So that's the source of the wording. Zokef kefufim, we have it in Ashrei, we say 3 times a day we say it. So really 4 times a day we say Zokef kefufim with the bracha. And so based on the fact that this is the original phrase where it comes from, we also have to take into account what was the original intention of David Melech Yisrael, of King David, when he composed this Tehillim, this Pasuk. And it's the fact that Hashem is elevating or standing up those who are on the floor for various reasons. People who could be on the floor, again, doesn't have to be literally on the floor, but in the sense that they're fallen down for depressed or financial or again any types of things, and Hashem is helping us bring them up. Is part of the original intention of this pasuk. Or people who might feel crushed because of fear or emotional health. Morning. So they could also be applied this phrase of Zoikef Kefufim. You're trying to bring up those who are crushed or lying on the floor. On the flip side, we also have to take into account that sometimes people who are on the floor, and this elevation of people who are on the floor might be referring not to people who are crushed by bad things or by stress or by being poor, but people who are consciously crushed because they are batal, because they are nullified. And when it says is bringing them up, it's not like it's not unnullifying them. It's just saying because you are nullified, I'm going to elevate you in this nullified state. This is like the way we would understand this pasuk. So this has to be connected to the bracha itself. Now, but if we think more deeply or more broadly, the human being is the only creation, not to say animal, but the only creation that its normal way of moving is standing straight up. Yes, some monkeys can do it. King Kong can do it if he exists, but usually animals don't walk on 2 feet, constantly standing up. Animals usually walk on 4 feet or more, depending on how many they have. So their normal posture is not standing on 2 feet, even though they might be able to do it. You might have a dog who can do it, but it's not going to be like that, walking constantly. So what does this difference represent? It says when the animals, in their normal state, the animals have their head and their heart and their body and their bottom all at the same level. If you can picture a dog and you point at it horizontally, that's what you see.
Right.
Head, body, heart, everything's at the same level, right? And this is hinting at the fact that in the natural way of functioning of an animal, the animals are mundane physical beings where their head is not higher than their hearts. Their head is subservient to their hearts. So they see food, they go get it. They get scared, they barked. They're just reacting from their hearts. Their head is not. You say no? Oh no. You say no to him.
Thank you.
They're just reacting from their hearts. Their head is not above their hearts. Their head cannot control their hearts. Their head cannot dictate what their heart is going to like or dislike. And that is normal. They're just trying to satisfy their desires and their needs. And not only that, but their eyes are usually pointed at the ground. Yes, the dog could do like this and look at the sky, but their normal way of, if you have your paws down, is that your eyes are naturally just looking down, not even looking straight, even looking down, because they don't have the possibility of consciously recognizing Hashem. I mean, if you learn Perek Shira, it talks about how the whole creation sings to Hashem, but the animals cannot consciously recognize Hashem and think in godly ways or things like that, right? Well, the human being was created as somebody who can walk on 2 feet. The normal way, yes, you might have humans who either were born with disabilities or have lost their ability to walk on 2 feet, but they're still part of the human species, so to speak, that the normal way of behaving is that you walk on 2 feet, right? And that connects to what we explained yesterday. Not only connects, but expresses it very clearly, the concept of moach shalit al halev, that the head is controlling the heart, because physically my head is above my heart, and there's not a progression, a structure with certain things that are more in charge. No, when you draw un organigrama, ¿cómo se dice?
Org chart.
An org chart. Right? When usually you look at the top, that's the CEO, and then it goes down. You might have companies that we have a very flat org chart. Okay, it means that there's still some people in charge, but then it's very flat. So there's a lot of people that are like an animal, meaning that nobody's above anybody, which is fine. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing for a company, but just to understand that at the end, somebody has to be in charge. If you have a literally flat org chart where there's literally nobody on top, who's going to make the decisions? There's going to be clashes, right? And there has to be somebody there that can say, you know what, I hear your opinion and I hear yours, but we're doing this. And everybody will say, okay, because you recognize, okay, you are in charge, you are on the top. So the normal, natural behavior of a human being is that that's how it should work. The head should be able to control the heart. Everything we said yesterday about the being able to intellectually decide what you love and what you fear, what you are attracted to, what you are repulsed by, is not, it sounds like, no, I can't do that. Because movies tell you, follow your heart. You can't, if this is what you want, this is what you want. You like this type of people, you want to get married to an animal, go right ahead. Because you can't go against your heart. Yes, if you're an animal, you cannot go against your heart. But if you're a human being, the head is on top. And you should be able to think and say, even though my heart feels an attraction towards eating cheeseburgers or bacon every morning, I'm going to think and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to train myself to reject this idea. Yeah, because my head is on top. Problem is, humans don't behave a lot of times like humans. And when I say this, I'm not pointing at we're to ourselves. No, a lot of times we behave as animals in the sense that we're just responding to what our heart wants. No? Which is also why you could even argue that when my namesake, Daniel Hanavi, the prophet, was thrown into the lion's den, and the lions didn't attack him, says, why would the lion attack something they see that is superior to them? When they see a human being that doesn't behave like an animal, that his head is clearly on top of his heart, animals respect that. But when an animal sees a human being and he just sees another animal, it's okay, I'm the apex predator, I'm on top, I'm going to eat you. Yeah? Animals wouldn't attack tzaddikim. Why? Because they're smart, because they instinctively recognize this thing in front of me, that's not in another category. So humans should be able to do this, because that's how we were built. We were built with our head on top of our heart.
The same as the rooster.
The same as the rooster.
Except for the rooster. The rooster is different.
It's a little different. His anatomy is a little different.
No, but we just said the rooster had the possibility.
The rooster has some
some
qualities. So maybe instead of thinking we come from monkeys, maybe we come from roosters. No. We evolved from roosters. No. They all walk on 2 feet because they don't have any more. All right. Okay. I got excited and I went off the script. Okay, and also we are very better positioned to be able to look. We're not looking down. We're either looking straight, or it's very easy for us to look up to recognize Hashem, to understand and deal with godliness. But on a daily basis, there's a moment during the day where our physical body is behaving like an animal, which is when you sleep. When you sleep, usually your head is at the same level as the heart. And some of us have heartburn and we put a lot of pillows so that our head is a little bit higher up. But still technically, while you sleep, your head is not controlling your heart. Your head is not controlling anything. It's a free-for-all. No? Again, thankfully when we grow up, we stop moving like crazy. But you see kids, when they sleep, they're rolling around and kicking and says, no, I didn't do anything. Yeah. Right? But when we sleep, we are like that. So we woke up and said, oh, Zokef Kefufim. Hashem, help me have Moach Shalit Alalev. So wait, we said that yesterday was Moach Shalit Alalev. So there's a slight, very important difference between yesterday and today. Yesterday was more, Hashem, let me get control of my emotions. Today is let me get control of my emotions to the point that I can implement, that I can actually, in a tangible way, act differently. So it's a little step further. Because after knowing the difference between right and wrong, and be able to see the Hashgacha Pratit and actually see clearly, not only understand, but see clearly the difference between right and wrong, we liberate our emotions, and now we have to make sure that our actions are being controlled in the right way. Not only something that goes on internally, but actually what expresses itself externally. And for sure, there are going to be many, many opportunities during the day to act like somebody who doesn't walk straight up. You're going to have opportunities to stay kafuf, to stay bent down like an animal, where your intellect is going to feel that it's being forced to just respond to the heart and not vice versa. So from the morning, we're trying to get ahead of the game and say, no, I want to be prepared. I know it's coming. I know it's coming at some point during the day. It's going to happen. Let me be prepared and ask Hashem to help me be zokef kefufim. Now, since at one time, the Rebbe Maharash was staying at a Jewish motel in the city of Vitebsk, and they brought him lunch, but he didn't eat. And after about an hour, somebody came running to tell the person of the motel, be careful, I gave you some chicken and it wasn't kosher. It wasn't properly shecht or whatever, it wasn't a kosher chicken. So now then they had a question to the Rebbe Maharash. He says, how do you know? So you didn't eat. Why didn't you eat? And he says, this morning I put on tefillin, says the Rebbe Maharash. I put on tefillin with Rabbeinu Tam, he says, and a thought came to my mind about lunch. So in the morning, Rabbeinu Tam, and a thought comes to my mind about lunch. Again, if it's us, it's normal, but this is the Rebbe. So say, I'm getting a thought about lunch while I'm doing Rabbeinu Tam. I decided right then and there, I'm not having lunch today. Something's going on. So he didn't have lunch. He did his kafia. He controlled himself, and obviously control for a tzaddik is very easy, because a tzaddik never lets himself. He doesn't even want to be controlled by his heart. But if we could have this level of iskafia, of moach shalit al halev, of our head being in control of our emotions, that would be amazing. What time is it? Because I think we still have 46. One more story. Says there's a man who complained to the Rabbunim of Shischa, a Hasidic master, that he heard that if he fasted enough times, if he fasted a lot of times, he would marry to see Eliyahu Hanavi, to have what they call Gilui Eliyahu, the revelation of Eliyahu Hanavi. He says, dude, I fulfilled this fast regimen. I've fasted a lot and I don't see anything. And so Rav Bunim says a story. He says, the Baal Shem Tov, he used to travel a lot in his wagon with his horses. And as it was his custom, at some point the Baal Shem Tov would tell his coachman, Alexis, the Russian guy, to drop the reins and not look where he was going. At that point, the horses would fly. And they would travel long distances in very short time. And this story the Baal Shem Tov is telling, what happened, a conversation that happened between the horses while they were flying. So as the horses were flying, and he says, well, maybe we're not horses, maybe we're human beings. Because if it's not, why aren't they giving us oats to eat and water? Look at all these places we're passing so fast, and they're not letting us eat the oats and drink the water. But then they saw they were going past also inns and motels and taverns. Says, well, maybe we're not humans, maybe we're angels, because if not, we will be stopping to eat and have something here. And anyways, finally they got to their destination. The Baal Shem Tov went off the wagon to do whatever he had to do. And Alexis, the wagon driver, took the horses to eat some oats, and drink some water. And they guzzled the water and devoured the oats like if they were just horses. So Rabbunim says, my dear Chassid, the purpose of a fast is to refine a person, to have him transcend, if only for a few hours, the materiality or the physicality of his human state. But if the moment the fast ends, he attacks his food with the fervor of a man who hasn't eaten all day, what has been achieved? You're still a horse. You're still a horse. So again, see, we finished yesterday with the story about a horse, and we finished today with the story about a horse. Don't be a horse, be a human.